Well, it's time. Last year, I made a video about a lot of the problems that Loomian Legacy had at the time. There were a few issues I admit I didn't address, but I feel like I tackled the most important problems and gave some decent solutions to fix them. I think now's a good time to take a look at what changes the developers have implemented, what problems remain, and some new problems that have appeared, if any. First, I think we should go over all the updates Loomian Legacy has had and how they've affected the game. Sadly, we did not receive any story updates, more on that later, so I'm going to have to start with events. First of which being the Halloween event. This update added many of the things that Halloween events usually do, meaning new skins, a minigame, and a few new Loomians. There was also a new mechanic implemented into the maze minigame where the player had to collect different potions to combine them into a key, thus allowing them to catch Gargolem, who sadly was a late addition, and then a chisel to allow it to change forms. I personally think this was a nice mechanic to implement. It's not tedious, it's fun to solve, and it rewards you with a cool Loomian. Now, I will mention that I did say in my last video not to implement an entirely new map for each update, but my video came out in the same month and I doubt they'd have changed their plans simply because of a small creator like I was at the time. So I can't take any credit for my suggestion there. The devs made a decision all on their own that benefited the community all while adding a fun new mechanic, so they're clearly very capable. I do think the update should have come out all as one part though, because withholding Gargolem until later means a shorter time frame to hunt for a Gleaming or PvP Loomian for those who are interested. Now on to the next update, the 2022 Jolly Village Christmas event. Honestly, this update I didn't play very much of, but again we got a few new Loomians, a soft resettable, and some reskins. That's all I can really say about this update. Next is the Lunar New Year event, which added a skin for Bunpuff, and then the Valentine event, which was literally just a skin for Ansi and Florant, followed by the Easter update, which brought raid mechanics to the game, as well as a new evolution line with Kiego, but ultimately felt pretty lackluster and seemed like a copy of Pokemon's raid battle mechanics in Generation 8 and 9. Next up is the Rainbow event, and oh boy do I have some strong feelings towards this. 3 Loomians got rainbow skins in this event, and we also got a special minigame which was really short, where we needed to find and catch different color goppies to get a free rainbow goppy, and that was honestly pretty nice. I enjoyed it. But you know what wasn't nice? Why the f was Rainbow Pyramide a 1 in 20,000 chance? Let's look at the Generation 2 Shiny chance in Pokemon, since that's where Shiny started from. Oh, look at that. 1 in 8,192. So explain to me why one of my favorite Loomians is... wait a second. 2.5 times that? I get that Rainbow Loomians are supposed to be rare, but 1 in 20,000? Really? Who hurt you, Llama Train? The only Loomian, the one singular Loomian that I've always wanted in the game was a Gleaming Pyramide. I don't care if it's Alpha, I don't care if it's Gamma, I don't care about stats, natures, or secret ability.
0 melee attack?
Oh my
it's
God.
perfect!
And then you add a variant of Pyramide that I think looks really cool, and you make it next to impossible to get? I want you to know I spent the entire month of June hunting for this thing and I have literally nothing to show for it. I know there were other colors of Pyramide added later on in the event, and I got every color of those, but I find it so unfair that the rainbow version was so ungodly rare, you'd basically have to win the lottery to find it. And of course, last but not least is the Ore event, similar to the Geklo event from 2020, but this time with Oxydrake. Not much worth noting, it seemed pretty identical to the Geklo event with little to no innovation, which is a little disappointing, but hey, it gave me a reason to do another Gamma Oxydrake hunt since I hadn't gotten one the first time. Anyways, that's all the updates the game got in the past year. Kinda sucks that we never got Atlantean City Part 2, despite this message, and this one. Honestly, I think I speak for everyone when I say we can't trust the devs anymore. Year after year, we've gotten The Boy Who Cried Atlantean City Part 2, only to be met with another apology every single time. Trust me, I understand the struggle with working on projects, even things you're passionate about. I haven't exactly been consistent with my upload schedule the past year, but if you're gonna set a deadline, you have to meet it! Otherwise, you run the risk of losing the trust of your fans, or much worse, you lose your fans entirely. I feel like I've ignored the elephant in the room for long enough, and if you're watching this Llama Train Studio, I strongly suggest you listen to what I have to say. I've tried my best to be respectful of your wishes. I haven't recorded footage or talked much about this because I know how you guys feel about the clones, but there's literally no new content being added to the games. If you want your fans to listen to you, then you have to listen to them. You can't just say don't play the Brick Bronze clones and then not release a story update for your game after a year of promises to do so. Events are not permanent. Every time an event is released, the player count does spike, yeah, but then it just goes right back down once the event ends. It's not solving anything, it's just delaying the eventual death of the game. The difference in player count for both games, in case you haven't seen it, speaks for itself, and I really need you to know I have my own reasons for hating these people, so I really, really want to see Loomian Legacy come out on top more than anyone else. I don't want to be mean, but the game is dying fast. Faster than it ever has before, and even I'm having extreme trouble finding reasons to play. I think the easiest and simplest solution for now is to remove event updates temporarily. And yeah, I'm well aware the Halloween event would usually be coming out soon. And yes, I'm aware I mentioned it being my favorite holiday, and that hasn't changed. But I seriously do not see a future for this game unless there's an extremely drastic change implemented, and honestly, I think this is it. I also released a few polls, and it seems like the majority of the community that's still active agrees. If this doesn't work and give the devs motivation and time to finish more story updates, then I don't think anything will. Okay, real quick, I just want to mention this message that appeared like a day after those posts I made, and it feels like it was timed a little too coincidentally. I'm just glad they're listening to the community. I'm honestly ready to drop events for the year, or just like tone it down to 1 or 2 reskins per event. I really want more story. Alright, now I think I've talked enough about the problems, however, I do want to look at whether or not Llama Train Studio has tried to or succeeded in fixing some of the problems I talked about previously. Last time I talked about communication, and I want to say we've been getting more news on updates, but it's really hard to tell. I don't know, maybe a progress bar with like how close every update is to completion would be nice, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they're communicating more. Also, apparently you only have one person working on coding the game? Please, please hire more people. I know the leak was bad, but you've gotta get over it. It's been years. The weather polls were nice. I know it was likely botted, which really sucks, so an easy solution to that I think would be to put the polls in the actual game itself. It might take more work to code and implement, so it's really up to you, but I'm just trying to offer a solution. Next up is PvP, and again, I'm still not much of a PvP player, but it seems like there hasn't been much, if anything, implemented to make grinding it for PvP Lumens easier, so I think that's another thing that still needs work. Replayability is another problem that still needs work, but luckily I think this could be ignored as long as story updates come out sooner, so for now, I think it's better to prioritize those instead. I've heard that devs are not very open to criticism, and I don't really know how true that is, but if that's the case, they definitely should be more open to it. I read every comment on my videos, and yeah, sometimes there's 1 or 2 hate comments, but sometimes someone will point out a mistake I made, and it's important to listen to that so you can learn to improve and do better next time. And I think that's about everything I wanted to talk about. This video was hard to make, especially the script. I didn't really know how to talk about a lot of the topics or keep it as engaging as it was with my last video, but I hope I did good. I know I made a lot of mistakes in my last video, and if I knew it would have done as good as it did, I would have worked on it a lot more, because I'm not very proud of how it turned out. I hope I can look back on this video and be proud of it, but most of all I hope you guys enjoyed it. And let's hope for a more positive year for Loomian Legacy going forward. Bye.